What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we're going to be looking at a bunch of new exotics in Destiny 2 and things we learned about recently. So I'm back from E3 and once again expect a bunch of videos pointing out cool things that you might have missed or rounding up a bunch of bits of info and news that came out during E3 interviews and stuff that I haven't already covered. But today we're going to be focusing on exotics that we saw during E3, not going to be talking about the ones we've already seen ages ago during the reveal event. I already made a video going over all like 10 plus of those and that'll be in the description. But like I said, this video is just going to be looking at the new ones discovered since then. So the first and probably the most interesting one we've seen so far is called the Cold Heart. This is an exotic fusion rifle. This was revealed during the Big Show's interview with Pete Parsons, the Bungie CEO, during E3. A pretty interesting show, but this is an actual real model, like a real life model that's been created. It's actually really cool. It was also, of course, at the gameplay reveal event on the wall hung up with a bunch of other exotics. And at the time I pointed out this definitely would be an exotic, but we didn't know anything else. But now we know its name is the Cold Heart and it's a fusion rifle. It's made by Omolon, obviously. Now it does have a railgun design, very similar to this weapon being held by this Cabal boss. So it could be Cabal themed, that's a possibility. Maybe it's something you get from the Cabal as opposed to being a normal kind of Guardian weapon, just kind of Omolon themed instead. But something else I thought of, seeing as this is a railgun type weapon, is that what if this is actually a linear fusion rifle, not a normal fusion rifle? Because obviously that's a new weapon type I showed off in a recent video. It's basically like a Queenbreaker's bow or a Sleeper Simulant, fires one super high energy bolt. So maybe this weapon could be this new kind of type of linear fusion rifle that shoots one high damage bolt. But of course I have to wait and see, but that is the Cold Heart fusion rifle. So next up there is this grenade launcher shown off quite a lot in trailers. Now this one definitely seems to be from the Tex Mechanica foundry. If you look at the design, the kind of like pattern all over it, it's very similar to the Chaperone and just generally with the revolver style, the kind of Western themed weapons. This is almost definitely going to be from Tex Mechanica. So there is a grenade launcher, it's looking pretty cool. Now another exotic, which I did show off in a previous video but was announced during E3, is the sniper, which is actually called the Borealis. This is an exotic which is PlayStation exclusive, unfortunately. It changes through elements if you didn't know, so Void, Solar, and Arcane do all three. Not exactly sure how that works, but they did say in the trailer that you can change through the elements on the fly, which does suggest that you have control over it, as opposed to just it cycling through every time you shoot it, but somehow it changes through elements. It's pretty cool and definitely unique in terms of that element changing. So the next weapon we saw quite a few new clips of is the Dubious Volley. Once again, that still isn't its name, by the way, but we've got a few more gameplay shots of it in action, seeing what it actually does. And now we know the missiles do actually track individually. So obviously it fires like a massive volley, multiple tiny rockets, as opposed to one big one. But when it was using the campaign mission, we saw it close quarters, so we couldn't really see what the missiles did. But now we know each actual tiny rocket does spread out and individually track targets, which is quite cool. So you can basically fire at a cluster of enemies and each one is going to like spread out and find a different target. So that's a quite cool feature and definitely going to be good at massive mobs of enemies. Now something else I noticed in this clip that no one else noticed because everyone's focused on the rocket launcher in his hands, but if you take a look at the gold sidearm on his hip, that is a very unique weapon. It's literally a solid gold sidearm with a suppressor on it. Looks very similar to like an old German pistol or like a really old James Bond film kind of pistol he'd use. I'm wondering what this kind of set belongs to because it is pure gold, which is quite strange for Destiny. And normally I think this is exotic because it's so unique, but obviously the Dubious Volley in his hands is exotic. So we know this sidearm has to be legendary, but still a very cool weapon nonetheless. Now, I also wanted to mention this hand cannon, which we've seen before, and is definitely also an exotic. It was on the wall at the gameplay reveal event, but now we have some more bits of info kind of looking closer at it, and we can't actually be sure this is even a hand cannon in the first place, because it does have the same design as a sidearm with that kind of like magazine that reloads, as opposed to the revolver, which all hand cannons normally have. So this could possibly be a sidearm instead of a hand cannon. And it also does, of course, have that very strange and unique design with those mice or rats on it. Now, when I mentioned this in my video originally, I got loads of comments from you guys suggesting this is going to be a reference to the three blind mice, the old nursery rhyme. So that does actually make a lot of sense now that I think about it. And I think it's actually spot on. I have no idea how that could tie into the exotic perks or what it might do because of this name, but it definitely seems to be the reference of this weapon. So next up, we have what's very likely to be an exotic sword, but we can't be sure on that one. A lot of these swords we've seen so far in Destiny 2 do look very unique, and they've all got different animations. So it could be legendary, but it does actually have a very unique kind of thing inside of it, which is the speaker's like spinning device, whatever it's called, that giant thing inside the tower. So it could be related to the speaker or the tower in some way, seeing as it does have that kind of device at the base of it. And something that could suggest it might be exotic is that it does have a similar animation, if not the same, as the Raze lighter. And you can see against this Vandal, it does the same Phoenix uppercut, the solar one, that the Raze lighter used to do. So it could be a temporary animation, but it does seem to have the exact same thing that the Raze lighter does. So it's definitely a very interesting sword. Now also in this shot, you can see two other weapons from matching sets. You got the shotgun in the Titan's hands and the auto rifle held by the Hunter. They've both got the same kind of black and bronze battered theme, so if anyone's guessed what they belong to, they're definitely a matching set. If you look at the armor they're actually wearing, is also pretty interesting. It's a torn up and destroyed version of the original set that's on the box art for Destiny 2. So we can see when this Titan is on the edge of the tower in this cinematic, his armor is basically normal looking, but then when Gary kicks him off the edge and he picks himself back up, not sure how he survived that fall, but he picks himself back up, but this time he's missing a shoulder pad and the mark's all ripped, his armor's all torn and like battered, so that's pretty cool, and I'm interested to see how that actually works. But it seems like we have some sort of transforming armor from the normal clean set to this battered, ripped and half missing set. That probably happens when you finish the cutscene and Gaul actually kicks you off the tower. And then it looks like you have to walk off into the wild, which I'm guessing leads to the European Dead Zone with no weapons, and you probably go scavenge to find some. So it looks like this is what takes place at the beginning of the game before you go to the European Dead Zone and the social space farm area. But that's been a look at a bunch of cool things I spotted inside the trailers and E3 footage, and of course a bunch of exotics we've seen from E3 itself. As always, if you enjoyed the video, a like rating would be much appreciated. Be sure to subscribe for a bunch more Destiny 2 videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.